The sun shimmered over the turquoise waters of Maui as Jana Duggar stepped off the small boat and onto the dock, her heart racing with both excitement and unease. The salty air brushed through her long hair, and for a moment, everything felt like a dream. The kind of dream that whispers, "This is where your story changes." Beside her, Stephen Wissmann smiled, calm, confident, and already at home under the golden Hawaiian sun. He had convinced her to join him on this mission trip, a journey that was supposed to mix service, rest, and a bit of adventure. For weeks, they had planned every detail: the local church projects, the community outreach, and maybe a few moments to see the island's hidden beauty. Jana had always been cautious, her life guided by structure and purpose. But lately, her heart had been restless. She wanted to see the world God made, beyond the quiet hills of Arkansas, to understand herself outside the shadows of her famous family. A paradise with a purpose. Their days in Hawaii began like a postcard come to life. Mornings were filled with laughter and sunrises, afternoons spent helping rebuild a small coastal chapel that had been damaged in a storm. Stephen was always nearby, sleeves rolled up, paint on his hands, humming softly as he worked. Jana watched him often, noticing the steadiness in his eyes, the same steadiness she craved. At night, they gathered with locals for worship on the beach. Voices rose under the starlit sky, waves lapping gently against the shore. Jana closed her eyes, the cool breeze wrapping around her like a blessing. But just as peace began to settle in, something changed. The storm comes without warning. It began one afternoon, dark clouds rolling in from the horizon faster than anyone expected. The islanders called it Kahiko's Fury, a rare Pacific storm known for its unpredictable strength. Jana and Stephen were returning from a nearby village when the wind began to roar. The ocean, once calm and inviting, turned violent. Rain lashed down, blurring the road ahead. Their car trembled under the force of the storm. "Should we pull over?" Jana shouted above the wind. Stephen gripped the wheel, eyes fixed on the narrow coastal road. "We're almost to higher ground. Hold on." Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the cliffs that loomed beside them. The rainwater poured down like rivers across the asphalt. Just as they rounded a curve, a fallen palm tree blocked the road. Stephen swerved, the tires screeching. For a moment, everything went still. Then came the sound. The sickening scrape of metal as the car skidded toward the edge. Jana screamed. Stephen turned the wheel hard, the world spinning in a blur of rain and sound. When the car finally stopped, they were inches from the cliff's edge. The ocean raged below, crashing with fury. Jana clutched Stephen's arm, trembling. Neither spoke. They could only hear the thunder and their pounding hearts. Faith in the eye of the storm. They abandoned the car and climbed toward the mountain shelter, drenched and shivering. The church they had helped rebuild was only a mile away, and they prayed it would still be standing. Every step was a test of faith. The rain came sideways, the mud slippery beneath their feet. Jana stumbled, but Stephen caught her each time, whispering, "We're almost there. Don't give up." When they reached the chapel, it was battered but standing. Inside, a few islanders had gathered, huddled together, praying by candlelight. Jana sank to her knees, tears mixed with rain. "We should have never gone out," she whispered. Stephen knelt beside her. "We did what we could. God's still with us, Jana, even here." That night they sat in silence as the wind howled around them, holding hands as they listened to the storm's fury. It was terrifying, but strangely beautiful. The kind of moment that strips away everything but truth. Morning after the darkness. When dawn finally came, the island was transformed. Fallen trees littered the ground, roofs were torn away, yet the chapel still stood, cross gleaming against the pink sky. Jana walked outside barefoot, feeling the damp earth beneath her feet. The world smelled of salt and new beginnings. Stephen joined her, handing her a cup of steaming coffee salvaged from a gas stalls. "How are you?" he asked gently. She smiled faintly. "I was terrified, but I also feel alive." He nodded. "Sometimes God brings storms not to destroy, but to remind us how strong our faith can be." They spent the next few days helping rebuild what had been damaged, handing out food, comforting families, clearing debris. Her hands ached, her clothes were stained, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. A love tested and renewed. On their final night before returning home, Jana and Stephen stood by the water where it all began. The sea was calm again, the sky painted in colors too beautiful to describe. Jana looked at Stephen, her eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. "That storm changed everything," she said softly. "It showed us what matters, and maybe who matters." She blushed, looking away. "You really think so?" "I know so," he said, taking her hand. "God didn't just bring us here for a mission. He brought us here to learn trust in Him and in each other." For a long time, they stood together in silence, watching the waves kiss the shore. The same ocean that once threatened their lives now whispered peace. Homeward bound. When they returned to Arkansas, friends could see something different in Jana. She carried herself with quiet strength, the look of someone who had faced the storm and come out renewed. In her journal, she wrote, "Sometimes the scariest moments are the ones that teach us to lean not on our own understanding, but on the one who calms the seas." Her trip to Hawaii would be remembered not for the danger, but for the faith it awakened. It was a story of loss and survival, of fear and hope, and perhaps of a love that would one day grow into something lasting. Epilogue. The waves still whisper. Months later, Jana would sometimes dream of the ocean, not the stormy one that terrified her, but the calm one that followed. In her dreams, she stood beside Stephen again, hand in hand, as the waves shimmered with light. And though life moved on, one truth remained. Sometimes God sends us into the storm not to break us, but to teach us that we were never alone and never without love.